Hi, welcome. In this video, I like to discuss the issue of hierarchy as it relates to dogs as social relational animals. And so even when you hear this issue of dominance, whether or not it's relevant, its relevance by way of the dog and human relationship, and whether influence, again, that's the proper definition of understanding what's really happening, the role of influence as it pertains to the process and relationship between dogs and owners. What role does that play as well in creating meaningful change between dogs and owners? And this goes right into this issue of dogs as pack animals. Really, when you take this right back to some of the statements that you'll hear from the so-called experts, call themselves dog behavioralists, who will say certain things like, they'll go so far as to say dogs are not pack animals. But again, you have to really look at the motivation, because the thing is, just common sense, you'd say, well, that statement sounds just ridiculous. Anybody who has any common sense will see dogs that, even in your own neighborhood, if two dogs come from two different homes, they join up pretty quickly. They travel in packs. And then the question has to be, well, what motivates those who say things like that? Well, what's their motives for saying it? Well, they're trying to really distance themselves from this issue because it plays into this issue of dominance, hierarchy, and the role of influence in establishing or promoting, defining change between dogs and owners. What I advocate is terms of right relationship. And so what they really fall back on, because here's really the key point, is what they're doing is they're trying to fall back on this idea that training is a learning-based exercise. And one of the problems I show through its application of this learning narrative in a very superficial way is based on the picture, how they're building the picture of change through its application, is they're taking response completely out of context. And this is why, again, this doesn't mirror up for so many people. But getting back to this issue of dogs as pack animals, this goes right into in hierarchy. This goes right into drawing from studies, and again, this is, you hear the name Dr. David Meck, who's a Canadian research scientist, who tried to establish some sort of a definition as to what the issue of dominance represents through social interactions of wolves. And this is where things really, again, when you get into what's revealed at the physical level, where one's expectation, us as humans, our expectations by way of what we see with overt physical force at the level that we anticipate that it's going to be on display, to gain a certain interpretation as to how we define dominance. But that's not how it works at all. When you come into a understanding of the depth of relationship in terms of hierarchy and influence and the role that plays at a deeper level when it comes to dogs in their natural environment, is actually on display at a deeper level. Okay, so you're not going to see what you expect within the context of overt physical force, even though strength and weakness is a very real issue by way of dogs in their natural environment, dogs as pack animals. And then that translates into the connection dogs share with the human in terms of, again, establishing the role of influence and how it intersects both the process and the methodology. That's absolutely critical when you start hearing these terms being thrown around regarding the role of certain things, such as influence. And so again, what I show very clearly is that influence is a key ingredient, but to define it, you have to look at the process and dogs as social relational animals. Then you have to understand the problem. Okay, when you hear all these dog trainers or behavioralists, what they're trying to lean on, or what they're promoting, is a narrative which, applied at a very superficial level, is taken completely out of context. How they're doing it is very deceptive. Whether they're doing it intentionally or not, it's a very real problem in the dog training world. And what I show very clearly is the process itself, it's interaction based. Okay, it's a relational changing process versus a learning based exercise. And then going to this issue of hierarchy, the dominance issue, Yes, I mean that's how you know, when you look at dogs as social relational animals, it very much is part of the equation. But again, there's depth to relationship. And again, when you look at, you know, what's on display, nature doesn't reveal itself that way, or our expectations of that don't line up because, again, of the depth of what's happening. So again, I encourage you to really think about that. If you're looking for answers, check out my website. I don't just talk about the problem as it relates to the application of this learning narrative. I show very clearly the solution by way of getting the process right and making sure that relational change is in fact going to happen between dogs and owners. That's very, very important. So again, check out my website. Lots of great information. Thanks for watching.